2019. Before we start, I would like to ask for a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the September 11th attacks 18 years ago today. So if possible, please sit for a moment of silence. Thank you. May I please get members present?
Shaquille Ali,
Here.
Marie Brizuela,
Here.
Maybelle Manio,
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anuai is not present, Clayton Koo.
Here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Valenti, could you lead us tonight?
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is item 4, Governance Team Meeting Guidelines. Governance Team members will review the Governance Team Meeting Guidelines.
I'm ready.
Next is 5, approve the agenda. But before we approve the agenda, I was asked to remove item 6A, special presentation, because it will be postponed to a future board meeting.
I need to get an agenda.
Do we have another agenda handy for?
Can we get a copy of that?
Is there another agenda?
Why are you looked at all that stuff? I don't want to funnel through this thing.
So just get one of these. This is easy.
Oh, you mean the whole thing? I don't want to depend out of the whole thing.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the deletion of 6A.
Second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Next is item 7A, board member acknowledgement and commendations. Ms. Money, do you want to start first?
I just wanted to announce that Superintendent Vidales and I went to SFSU to talk to the PEP director and the coordinator there to help us try to implement ethnic studies into our middle schools. It was a very productive and enlightening conversation that we had. I am very hopeful for the future, and I just wanted to share that with the rest of the board members and all of you out there tonight, that we are making headway, and this is definitely a goal of the board, and we want to see this come to fruition, and we definitely have a lot of community support and other authoritative figures that have done this for several different school districts, not only here in the Bay, but also out of state. So they're very well experienced in implementing ethnic studies, and it's very exciting, and I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Thank you.
Just want to say it's good to be back. I missed a couple of meetings, which I never do. But I had an injury to my back. And I noticed under 8B, there's a resolution to excuse my absence. However, I just want to make it clear, even though somewhere it's written illness and hardship, it definitely was an injury, not an illness, especially since it was 2 meetings. I don't want people to think I'm really ill. I had injured my back, and my lung was kind of crushed down too. So it was a matter of trying to get well again. So I'm hoping to make it through this whole meeting tonight. Anyway, the only other thing I would like to say at this time is that I did attend this morning, and Bernie was also there, was the 9/11 ceremony by the fire department. It was actually honoring all of the first responders who actually put their lives on the line as well. And it was quite a nice ceremony. And I don't know if anybody noticed it. It was right across the street from this district office. But it was a nice event that happened, and I really wanted to be a part of it. As most of you know, I worked for the fire department for a long time, so they're very dear to me. It was nice. And Bernie, thank you for also attending. That's it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just want to acknowledge and commend all the negotiating teams. The negotiations are, coming to close. Hopefully, the agreement will be ratified. But it happened sooner than we thought it would. So I want to commend you for that. And also the special ed and student services committee. We did have a meeting, and I guess we'll speak on it later, but I want to just say that we had a good, productive meeting as well, and we got a lot of clarification, and I'm looking forward to seeing more progress in that area.
For me, I just wanted to commend a couple of events I attended since our last meeting. I attended the Westlake Elementary Welcome Back to School potluck, as well as the Tobias Back to School block party, and then I also was able to stop by Woodrow Wilson for their back to school night as well too. I was able to see their new field as well as their outdoor garden, and it just looked great. So just want to commend everyone for all of those events as well. Next, 7B, correspondence and superintendent comments.
Yes, I just wanted to report to the board that during the first 2.5 weeks of school, I had an opportunity to visit all of our schools, all of our elementary and all of our middle schools. And again, as I shared at our last meeting, the schools, the custodians did a great job at bringing the schools up to a condition where the students can feel comfortable and staff can feel comfortable coming back. And we're very pleased with that, as well as the classrooms looked beautiful, and they still looked great when I visited them at back to school night last week. Middle school back to school night is tomorrow, and I look forward to that. One announcement, and I don't have all the details, but we'll get that to the board so you can congratulate and celebrate with these schools. Many of our schools applied to the California PBIS coalition, and if you remember, PBIS is our positive behavior intervention strategies. And they applied to receive recognition for their efforts as model schools, and many of our schools received either gold or bronze medals in that application, and as soon as I get the names and their awards, I will let you know, so you can congratulate them as well.
Okay, thank you. Next is item 7C, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction. And now on the agenda, the maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. Are there any speakers on this item? No. Okay. So next item is item 8A, consent agenda. The administration recommends approval of the start items on the rest of tonight's agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
There's a first and a second. May I please get a roll call?
Mr. Ali?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Ms. Manio?
Aye.
Mr. Koo?
Aye. That was unanimous. Next item is item 8D, San Mateo County School Board Association Equity Network. The administration recommends approval of the minimum of 2 board members, Clayton Koo and Manufo Liagi Anawai, to participate in the San Mateo County School Board Association Equity Network. The cost is $900 for 2 board members for the program dates on the attached flyer. Mr. Fidelis, would you be able to speak on this item?
Yeah, I think every board member got the invitation, both from the San Mateo County School Board Association and also from me, and we're happy to be sending a team. Dr. Joyner will be, I don't want to say joining because that's 2 words that are the same. Dr. Joyner will be attending along with the Jefferson team so that we can have a productive conversation.
We don't have to pay for that one?
No, the superintendent and cabinet don't have to pay.
Great. Just asking.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask about? So what happens if someone that we're paying to go to that is unable to go? Will they send somebody else to go in their place?
I haven't looked into that. The first meeting is on Monday, so I'll make sure to get an answer to that before Monday.
But being that we're paying for it, it'd be good to have someone go in someone's
Exactly.
place.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Okay, so I move that we approve sending our two board members to the San Mateo County School Boards Association Equity Network with the cost of $900 for both board members.
Is there a second?
Second?
First and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is item 8E, tentative agreement between the Jefferson Elementary School District and AFT 3267 for 2019-2020. The administration recommends approval of the tentative agreement and MOUs for the 2019-2020 school years between AFT Local 3267 and the Jefferson Elementary School District, pending AB 1200 approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education and ratification by the bargaining unit. The agreement, effective July 1st, 2019, includes a 3% salary increase on the AFT salary schedules, increases to Step 1 and Step 2 of the teacher counselor salary schedule, a 0.09% salary increase equivalent to the unit, reducing the work year by 2 professional development days with no commensurate reduction to the salary schedule, which is equivalent to a 1.08% per diem increase, and other agreements on non-mandatory teacher planning preparation days, substitute coverage for IEP prep and meetings, and the establishment of a committee on special education as specified in the attached tentative agreement and MOUs. These agreements represents the conclusion of the 2019-2020 negotiations between AFT 3267 and the Jefferson Elementary School District. I have several speaker cards on this item.
Mr. Koo, may I make just one comment? One of the major parts of the agreement that did not make it into that summary that you read is the the acknowledgement of the work that our speech pathologists have done to obtain their ASHA certificates, also called 4Cs, and that will be recognized as a second equivalent to a second master's in our schedule. And we were trying to figure out how to summarize more, and we inadvertently left that out of the summary, but it was a major part of the agreement.
Thank you. So I have several speaker cards on this item. First one's Paul Hagan, president of the AFT 3267.
Good evening, school board and administration. I'm Paul Hagan, president of AFT 3267, and I rise tonight to thank the governing board and district administration for the fair and reasonable salary offer presented in the tentative agreement before you. While we are still far from the increases needed to ensure that our district employees will be able to live in or near our district, the current offer will certainly allow for some relief for those who spoke last spring and for those who they spoke for in the financial challenges that we're facing. I'm also very pleased with the agreement to form a collaborative committee on special ed inclusion to work on the challenges we must face providing the best education for all of our students. I'm asking that you approve the tentative agreement before you this evening, and thank you very much. I'll keep it short and sweet. Did the unit pass it? Did the unit pass? I think it was a pretty. I think Anushka's going to share that with you, but I can guarantee you.
Cool. Next speaker is James Natuzzi, SSRT at Thomas Edison Elementary School.
Hi, good evening. I wrote some notes down because as I get older, I get more forgetful and I waste people's time, so I'm trying not to. Last time I spoke to you guys, I gave a little infomercial on Uber and the Lovesack couch and This Is Us, Randall. And I just wanted to come up tonight and say thank you. When we found out at our staff, our representatives told us that there's a possibility of a raise. That really hit me, and I know a lot of teachers came to you and spoke to you about their hardships, and I wanted to thank you for hopefully ratifying it this evening. And I appreciate working in a district where they listen, they respect each other, and they grow and learn from each other. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next speaker is Liz O'Neill.
Good evening. I'm Liz O'Neill, principal of Westlake Elementary. I am a previous teacher in this district and a proud former member of AF2 3267. I want to say I'm really pleased for all parties involved that a tentative agreement has been reached up for your consideration tonight. I am so thankful that you have always included other educator categories when agreements are reached with AFT. It is really appreciated by all involved and helps us all feel we are valued for all our hard work. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Matt Harris.
Good evening. I would like to thank the members of the board, the members of the district leadership, and the valiant leaders of AFT local unit for reaching a joint negotiation. I would also like to speak to my experiences in education, my 22nd year as an educator, and the wisdom of the old adage, a rising tide lifts all boats. I have seen previous districts take the passage where not all members of either classified or certificated are recognized, or management are recognized equally at the same time, and that has created a divisive nature. I witnessed that in my career in LA Unified, in Manhattan Beach Unified, and in Oakland Unified before coming to this district. I really hope that our district maintains the wonderful familial sense that has led to the true spirit of collaboration that we are able to achieve in our classrooms and on our campuses and throughout our district every week, every day, every year. Thank you.
Next speaker is Anusha Takla.
Good evening, everybody. Last time I stood up here, I handed out a 21-page document, which was our survey of our membership regarding hardship. And I think you will recall that there were 19 pages front and back and expressing the very tear-jerking hardships that our membership was experiencing, which we know is true for everybody that lives in the Bay Area. I'm basically, I asked that you dig deep and that you look for creative solutions, and we really, really are grateful to the board for pursuing that and really pushing for a creative solution. We feel like our hardships were heard, and our contract was ratified by 273 yes vote and 12 no vote, which is quite significant. So again, expressing great appreciation for coming together, working together to find a little bit of respite to this, to the difficulties that people are facing. So thank you very much. We feel heard.
Thank you to all the speakers. So are there any comments or questions by board members? No. If there are none, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Let's see, what do we have? I'll make a motion that we are going to approve the tentative agreement and the MOUs for 2019-2020 school year between AFT Local 3267 and the Jefferson Elementary School District, and pending AB 1200 approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education. I'm not going to read it all. We're approving.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous.
All at one time, see that? Thank you for being patient with everybody, too.
Next item is item 8F, salary increase for certificated and classified management, other unrepresented certificate employees, and confidential classified employees. The administration recommends approval pending AB 1200, approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education for 3% salary increase to the salary schedules for unrepresented certificated, unrepresented classified, and confidential classified employees effective July 1st, 2019, a 0.09% adjustment, salary equivalent for the group to further align segments of the management salary schedule, percentage equivalent to AFT agreement, and a reduction to the work year for 11-month employees by 2 days, principals, vice principals, deans, program coordinators, and program directors. I have 2 speaker cards on this item as well. First is Liz O'Neill.
Mine was.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind then.
So I had a question on this.
Mr. Koo, I forgot to mention in the previous one, I'll mention it now. The AB 1200 was approved by the County Office of Education, which specifies that the district is able to be able to meet their obligations with this agreement.
Okay.
So a question I have is, this is a 3% salary increase, and what does the 0.9% adjustment mean in dollars? I mean, what,
In dollars, I
I
think
mean,
it's
why
about,
is that given there? And
it's about $6,000 a year. So,
per position?
no, just total.
Total
Sum
for-
total,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
for the district.
Why is it done separately like this?
AFT, in their agreement, we did some adjustment to the salary schedule, which was equivalent to 0.09% of their unit members' salaries to adjust step 1 and 2, which we were not happy with how that fell apart. We had done, several years ago, we had done another salary schedule adjustment to the units, mostly affecting the end of the schedule, but it did impact everyone, just making all of the steps equivalent from step 3 down to step 28, and then across columns. The previous schedule did not include any of, I like to say it didn't make much sense, but somebody thought it made sense at some points. But to me, it made little sense, and so we were able to negotiate that. So
That was teachers.
that was for teachers. And at that point, we were able to utilize that same percentage equivalency to the AFT and apply it to the management. And we were able to apply it to our deans, our vice principals, principals, program directors, to do the same thing so that each step was equivalent and that the move across columns was also equivalent.
So dollar-wise, what is that costing
I believe $7,000?
for each person?
No, total.
I'm just
for-
asking, I mean, it
Total.
doesn't explain here.
It's just under 7,000, including statutory benefits.
Per position?
No.
No, I'm asking,
Okay.
Per-
So
per
it's
position,
just under
what is it?
3,500.
What is it?
Under 3,500
each position?
for each position for the year.
Mrs. Brizuela, so the question is, what does this come out to for each, what does the 3% equate
Yeah.
to? Well, that varies. That's just 3% of whatever the base salary is.
But now when you give this other 0.9, because it's such a difference saying 3% and 0.09, so I just want to know, what is that? How much of a salary increase is that? Because management, generally speaking, is a much higher level. So I just want to understand what the dollar amount would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't have that question before. I could have figured it out.
Sorry, I was
But,
not able to
it's
do that.
3% would be somewhere between, depending on which position and how many years, would be anywhere between, I'm going to guess, around $2,000, maybe $1,600, all the way to maybe $3,500 a year.
For each person?
Yeah, depending on where they are.
Okay, so 'cause my feeling is, at least how I've known it before to be, salary increases is really supposed to be kind of cost of living, okay? Because right now, some of our youngest employees, new employees, who are sort of the bottom of the salary, are the ones that need their income naturally to be able to stay here. So I want to be sure that we are treating all our employees, no matter if they're employed or as a regular position, or whether they're management, that they're all getting the same sort of amount of money to go to the grocery store. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that we have some employees that are really saying they need to have a better salary. And then we take management and give them all this extra when they're probably doing quite well already. So I'm just saying is I want to see dollar amounts rather than just the percentage. I know it's too late for now. Had I been able to see this sooner or know it was how far it was going, I would have asked you, but I actually wasn't sure I was even going to be here tonight. So I just think that it's not telling us the whole story unless I see the dollar amount. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's something that percentages make a big difference. I hope everybody understands what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
Can I say something? I liked when we were asked to do this before with the dollar amount included in the equation in the closed session.
Yeah, and I think as Ms. Kessler specified, that was about a $3,500 with benefits. So without benefits, I think it's slightly under $2,800, maybe $2,900.
And other than the people that are listed here, who else does management include?
Certificated management, those folks that are listed, the assistant superintendents, the directors. This also includes our confidential employees, which are executive assistants in the departments, our school psychologists as additional unrepresented certificated, classified management, our director of fiscal services, directors of technology, special education certificated management, the maintenance and operations, there's food services. They're all considered classified management.
Is there a deadline to decide on this?
Not really. I mean,
Is it possible for you to give us all of the breakdown of everything and show us the dollar amount? And
generally, after the board passes this, in
No.
the past, we do give the salary schedules get approved at a subsequent meeting.
the
So-
last salary schedule you gave us was hourly, and that was very difficult to try to figure out exactly how much is that salary.
That could have been for classified employees
So,
hourly. The rest of certificated have salaries, yearly salaries.
okay, so I'd like to see the dollar amount exactly on all of this.
So you would like to see an old salary schedule and a proposed salary
I want to
schedule?
see, yes,
And what that
but I
amounts
want
to?
to see what the cost will be
Okay.
and what the increase is going to be for.
Yes.
Because this is just not really
I get it.
explaining to
I
us.
think in general, when we've calculated this before, unrepresented certificated and classified management and unrepresented certificated confidential employees come out to about 13% of all salaries and benefits.
I
for
want to
the
see the
district.
dollar amounts.
You will
please.
get that. You can have that.
I'm not prepared to vote on this.
How does that affect your vote?
I want information so I can see everything. This is not explaining it to me. I want to see the dollar amount. I want to see what it's going to cost the district. And I think maybe we need to evaluate whether or not every position that's included on here.
So we're going to
It's
start
considered management.
micromanaging at the last minute?
No, we're not
It
micromanaging.
seems like it's teetering on that to me.
Okay, well, you have your opinion.
Yep, I do.
Okay.
So what are we doing right now?
I have one more question. Do we have enough to do this?
Yes, remember last spring, we made reductions to be able to accommodate this offer to the AFT unit, and when we calculated what was needed, we included all of our employee groups as part of that. And so, in fact, the reductions that were made affected administrators at a greater percent than they are of the total salary schedule. I can't remember, but it was more than 14% reductions to administration.
So this whole plan is based on that we did away with some positions?
Yes, we could not afford a raise, and the board directed administration to make some reductions so that the board can utilize for other purposes, and the purpose for which the board determined was to offer a 3% increase to employees.
Are there any other questions or comments?
No, just I'd like to get that information.
If not, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Do we have a consensus? I mean, I'm a little bit confused right now.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, I mean, I just feel that, I mean, I understand like the 3% in terms of different salaries and different professionals, but I realize that if you're gonna give it 3% for some people and give less because you think they may be too,
No,
is that?
you misunderstood me. I understand the 3% salary is for everybody. I'm not against that. I'm trying to find out about the 0.9%. And then all of a sudden, as we're talking about it, finding out that it's all for certain positions, but not all the other positions. And so I'm just concerned about this, and I'd like to see it in black and white. I'd like to see how much it costs.
We will compile how much the cost of this agreement is. Part of it is included in the AB 1200. That's how much it costs the district for the whole agreement for both certificated, AFT, and management. We didn't include CSEA in there yet because we have not even begun negotiations there. We hope to begin by the end of the month.
So we have money for them?
When we calculated what a 3% would cost the district-wide, we made reductions in that amount.
So some of the positions that you're listing here are classified,
Classified management, ma'am,
but
and unrepresented confidential employees.
wouldn't they also come under the other ones as far as at the same time, because they are classified?
CSEA only negotiates for their members, and these employees are not members of CSEA.
I understand that, but I just thought as a team, as a group, that would be the time to also include that at the same time. You're either classified or you're not. So, anyway.
So, because that requires action, would any board member like to make a motion for the board to consider?
I move that we approve the recommendation as read by the president.
Is there a second?
It was mentioned that it could be done, that we could get the information before we vote on it. Bernie, is that what you said a few minutes ago?
You can't get the information tonight.
Oh,
Bernie? We can get it for a future.
when you said that, I
at a
took it
future time,
that
yes.
it meant it could come back for us to vote on it.
Yes, it can come back with information if that's what the
And it
board
would not hurt
desires.
anything.
But what does it help?
It helps me better understand what we're voting on.
To me, if it's not going to affect our vote, it's micromanagement.
Okay, we're not here to debate between
I
us.
can deliberate whatever I want.
Okay,
So we're slowing down the process for a reason that I don't understand.
Yeah.
We had this information presented to us in advance. No one asked for the dollar amounts before this meeting that I know of. That's not boardsmanship. Boardsmanship is you ask before the meeting.
I'm sorry that I didn't ask before the meeting. I was not doing very well.
But I don't understand the 0.9%. If you see it in a dollar amount, how does that change your vote?
Because I would like to see the dollar amount.
How does it change? How does it change anything? I don't understand.
Because I don't understand what 0.9% means.
It means that they evened out the steps.
Wait, I shouldn't be asking you, I should be asking Bernie.
Well, I don't know.
As explained, 0.09% is equivalent to just under $7,000 maximum for the district for the year.
I mean, is the issue we need to count the amount of employees and then divide into 7,000?
No, I didn't say that. Okay,
So there was a first. I'm going to second. So may I please get a roll call?
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
no.
Ms. Manio,
No.
Mr. Koo.
Aye. So that was 2-2. Mr. Vidal, Mr. Vidal, can this still come up in a future agenda? Despite the 2-2 vote?
Yes, I can work to make that happen.
Okay.
Can I say something after post-vote? For me, the dollar amount would be okay, but I also wanted salary schedules and a
Yes.
list, kind of how you had it previously in closed session. Then it's just spelled out for me.
Yes. We can include a proposed salary schedule with the increases that would be approved.
And Bernie, not by the hour, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Except some positions, I believe, are confidential employees. They get paid hourly. They're not exempt employees. But we can calculate that out for
Explain
you.
that to me, what is it?
Yeah. We list our non-exempt employees, like our classified staff and our confidential staff, as an hourly rate. Exempt employees are salaried, and they include but we can calculate it out.
I don't understand that. I mean, when you hire someone, are you not paying them a monthly salary? Why is it by hour? I was very surprised when I got that last salary schedule. I had never seen it like this. It's always been salary by the full amount per month.
Which position are you speaking about?
Any position, because the whole salary schedule was by the hour. I mean, I'm sorry, I just never saw that before, and I used to work in HR, so I mean, it just surprised me because why is it by the hour? It should be by the month. What is the salary schedule by the month? And that's the way it always has been. So that's why I'm concerned. So I have to ask these questions.
Thank you. I've only given the board what has already been there from before. So I've been here for 10 years, and that's what we've done for 10 years. And I'm pretty sure it's happened many years before that. I don't know when it switched, but at least for 10 years, this is the way the salary schedules have been.
So, Mr. Vidales, since this was going to come up again
That's not true.
in the future, would you be able to just provide us additional information so that the board can make?
Yes, I will do that. Mhm.
Okay. And if any board members have, let Bernie know, and we can get that included in
Okay.
future agendas.
Okay.
Next item is item 8G, governing board stipend increase. The governing board will consider adjusting the governing board's
Get it.
monthly stipend with an increase of 2% from $267.85 to $273.21 per month effective July 1st, 2019.
I move that we table this.
It's embarrassing, yes. So we get 2%. That's ridiculous.
Is there a second?
I'm tabling it because we didn't handle this other business, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
First and second to table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Next item is item 8H, Jefferson Elementary School District response to 2019-2020 grand jury report. Is San Mateo County at risk of a large measles outbreak? The administration recommends the board approve the Jefferson Elementary School District's response to the 2019-2020 grand jury report. Is San Mateo County at risk of a large measles outbreak? Mr. Vidales, would you just provide a summary of this item?
Yes, so you received the grand jury report when it came out. It's also attached to the agenda item. And you should have also received, accompanying the agenda item, our district response. It was drafted by county council, and we just made it specific to our district. The basic gist of it is that the grand jury would like districts to be good, and we are, about monitoring vaccination rates. Our district has one of the highest vaccination rates in the county, and we follow all of the guidelines that are provided for us.
Thanks. Any questions from board members?
Glad to see it.
If not, I will entertain a motion on this item. I will make a motion to approve the Jefferson Elementary School District's response to the 2019-2020 grand jury report. Is San Mateo County at risk of a large measles outbreak?
I'll second the motion.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. I was going to actually ask Ms. Vidales, if it's okay with you, I was going to ask first for like a 5-minute recess before we proceed the rest of the meeting.
You're the
Second.
president. You can decide that.
Okay, then. I was just going to call a couple-minute recess before we move to the next item, item 9A.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Cool. First and a second, we will proceed just to a couple-minute recess. Thanks. Yep. Cool.
I was about to ask for one anyway, so that's perfect.
Yeah, I don't know how long I'm gonna stay. My back is really killing me. It hurts to talk about. I might just my ear talking.
It's getting warm in here. My water bottle's been leaking. I wonder.
What happened?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I watched the last meeting on TV, and I couldn't believe the body language that I saw, and also the picking up the drinks and drinking. And from the audience, it looks. I'm not feeling good. I did way too much talking, and it hurts like heck. Yeah, I just, Bernie, this stuff here, is this, we gonna talk about this today? Are we gonna talk about any of this today? No, because I wanted to ask you, you have numbers here. Could you do it so we know? It says 48 aides. Where are they? How many of the floor? If we get, no. Yeah. No, but I mean, I had a hard time trying to understand. Are we doing better or are we doing worse? You know, what's it for? No, I'm just saying, but it says 48 for some of those special circumstances, or where are they? Because does this coincide with what the teachers were complaining about? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a number, but it's not explaining. Yeah, I just want to understand it more than just seeing the number.
Continue on with the meeting. Meeting 9, under Educational and Student Services, 9A, English Language Development Updates. Benjamin Moser, English Language Development ELD Program Director, will provide updates on 1, English Learner Annual Progress, 2, the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, EL-PAC transitions, and EL reclassification updates. Good evening, Mr. Moser.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here this evening representing the District English Learner Advisory Committee. Thank you. Generally works.
Oh, like extra.
I always like to start with the goal in mind, and that is reclassification. So this is for all of our English learners, and this is the criteria which you approved this past July, but I just wanted to recap some of the revisions. So on the right, the state of California standardized the LPAC measurement level for all school districts this year. So going forward, all students in our district and all across the state of California will now all be at the highest level, which is well-developed overall on the LPAC, which is our English Language Proficiency Assessment. Also, another change for this year is we are adding first and second grades to be candidates for the reclassification process. And as of this evening, we have 23 first and second graders who will be eligible. So that's great news, and I think that families will also appreciate that addition to, so thank you for that update. So let's take a look at what an EVER-EL is. So I spoke of this last year, but once again, this is a student who is currently an English learner or who was formerly designated as an EL, but has now been reclassified RFEP. So who are our students? I always like to ask that question. So our district is represented in green, the county in blue, and the state of California in yellow.
Ours is black and white.
I beg your pardon?
Is this supposed to be in color?
I don't have a color printer in my office, so
More expensive.
Oh, it's
yes.
over there. Oh.
Yes, it's up here. So I actually got rid of it this year to save a little bit of money.
Well, that's okay.
So thank you.
No, I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the right.
Sure. So we're going to start on the left-hand side. And so you see, about 42% of our students have been English learners for 3 years or fewer. So I just want you to take a look at that and how we compare to the county and the state of California. Then I'm going to move right along. You can see 4 or 5 years, then 6 or more years. And then all the way over to the right, let's look at our reclassified students. And we're sitting at about 25%. So the snapshot from this, as I look at this, is, we have a lot of beginning English learners in our district. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that piece as we dive into the next section.
I have a quick question, Mr. Mosier.
Sure.
So we've always felt that our reclassification criteria was stricter than other surrounding districts for sure, and perhaps the state. This will likely change now that there's a more common definition of what it takes to be reclassified.
Certainly, and I see, all the green adds up to 100, all the blue adds up to 100%. So I see through the years, we're not reclassifying students usually within the first 3 years. So I see when I present next year or the following year, we're going to see our green, grow significantly. That would be my hypothesis. So let's take a closer look at our students by the number of years by classification by grade level. So once again, we see the 0 to 3 years, and you would expect it. Right now, we're testing, hundreds of students, and we see that, in the primary grades, most of those students have only been here for a short period of time. But then as we go through the years, you see how the colors change. But once again, my question, this is just, a bar graph. My question always is, who are these students? So I begin to wonder at 6th grade, we have a number of students who have been here 6 or more years, who are still English learners. And we know it takes 6 or 7 years to become proficient in English. So right about there, we're wondering, we need to really be aware, and certainly by looking at middle school, who are those students? So what I have done is with every site administrator, given them, I put a name to each number on here and shared these with all of our site administrators so we know how long have the students been here, how many years have they been an English learner, coupled with what was their last test result on LPAC. Because some of these students will be reclassified. Other students may have been stuck at a level. So My purpose in sharing this with you and site administrators, especially site administrators, is they need to turn this bar graph into a name. So I wanted to just give you kind of a highlight of how things by grade level are shifting, and basically all the different levels of who are our students. So from there, here's our most recent summative LPAC results. So we tested close to 2,500 students from TK to 8th grade. So level 1, which is the red, we see 13%, and that's what the state calls minimally developed. But this is all these levels are based on the ELD standards. So, and then we kind of go the next level, level 2, that's, 28%. What we say somewhat developed, or if we looked at the ELD standards, it's at the expanding level. And then you can see the 4 different levels, just to give you a snapshot of how our students did this past year. So that gives you the data, but I also wanted to kind of let you know, what do we do in the department? So in my arena, we are highly regulated because we receive Title III funding. So September 19th is a magic date. That means I have 30 calendar days to produce all these materials. So what that means is, what I've been doing since July 4th with my team is reviewing over 500 home language surveys, reviewing them online or having them faxed, and then we're looking into different data management systems. We've also trained a team of 19 testers, and they've calibrated before they went out and tested over 329 students. We sent out over 370 intent. We must notify families that we are going to test. So from there, we tested all those students, and then we also must notify our current English learners. So all of that has to happen, as I mentioned, by September 19th. So all of those bullets above the gap have happened. So below that, in addition, we've also kind of pushed along the timeline. We have 283 reclassification candidates. I opened with how many first and second graders we have, but these are the remaining grades. So all of this has been delivered to the school sites already, because designated ELD starts in 1 week. So we want to make sure that teachers have the latest data so they know how to appropriately place students. From there, the very last piece, we have a group of newcomers. We looked at one of that first bands of, the 0 to 3 years. We have a number of students who are coming here with 0 English. So another component is making sure that we identify our students and provide a software program for them in, I believe it's 18 different languages, so that they have an opportunity to, in addition to designated ELD, begin to acclimate to the classroom. So with all of these pieces, I just wanted to say, this is who did it. I'm one person supervising directly one person, but without everybody listed on this slide, none of it couldn't happen. So these are all the frontline people. These are the examiners. They are the front office staff. It's the tech department. So I just really wanted to publicly acknowledge the over 40 people who launched this big production at the beginning of the year for the English Learner Service Department. And so you may be wondering, what next, right? So is the guy done? No. So from September to April, we have some big changes, and that is we're joining, the tech field, and we're going computer-based. So right now, we're field testing at SBA and TRP just with this new LPAC test. So I'm sharing some of the highlights of what will be different as opposed to everything being pencil and paper. So we're excited about that, but it will be quite an undertaking. And with that, I thank you and entertain any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from board members?
Question, I gotta think again now. Can't think right now.
Any question?
Well, I did have one question. You said computer software. What's the program? Is it Rosetta Stone? Is it,
Sure. So we use Rosetta Stone namely at the middle school, but when we were looking for our elementary students, my office is housed at JFK, so I just pulled in a newcomer student and I put Imagine Learning and I put Rosetta Stone there and I let him go at it.
okay.
And so over time, he's kept leaning towards Imagine Learning. So it's a little more age appropriate. Rosetta Stone just is for older students.
Yes. Okay, great. You guys
So
are-
do you feel that the students following what you're doing here, is it helping them to learn English faster?
I didn't hear the first part, I'm sorry.
Is this, I'm sorry. What you're doing here, does it feel that they are all learning?
Well, that's my
English?
ultimate, as I open, my goal is to reclassify every
Everyone.
English learner.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm biased, but I believe, we continue to show progress. Of course, there's room for growth. And I pointed out, maybe in the gray section, making sure we name every single student so that we know what supports are necessary and that we provide them.
That's great. That's
And
great.
I was a little bit trying to wrap my head around the, I guess, the trajectory. Like, what should they be progressing a level every year, or how does that?
Yeah, so,
It's interesting because we went from an assessment that had 5 levels to one that has 4 levels. So I would say no, because what hasn't sped up, it still takes, 6 to, depending upon who you talk to, 8 years to totally master a language. So there aren't 8 levels on, the assessment. So it's kind of broken down. At this time, you might be at the lower level of a level 2. So is that kind of a muddy enough answer for you?
Yes. So, yes, that's a good answer, actually.
Thank you.
so the other question I have is, so when you see the progress of the individual student, because they don't all learn exactly the same way, what do we do to make the child, not make the child, but have the child be able to progress? What is the element that you can use to,
Prevention.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many. I mean, at first, it's first good instruction. So, we have a stellar group of teachers, and so we have new curricula. So, that's our starting point. I have 2 goals. I want to reclassify, but I also want to make sure that our students are meeting the same content standards that every other student is. So those are my 2 charges in the department.
okay, I believe you.
So how does it affect, I don't know, our performance reporting or anything? Like, say if someone comes in as a newcomer, but they're already in 5th grade or even 6th or 7th grade, like, are we held accountable to progress them at a certain rate, or does it just? Oh gosh.
And I may ask for a little bit of assistance on this
Oh,
piece.
okay.
So, certainly if we're talking CASP, we excuse our newcomers from the ELA, the English Language Arts portion, for a year, but they are required to take the mathematics portion.
Right.
And then I have a question. Once students are reclassified, do we check up on them
We
periodically?
sure do, and that is not on there. I am required, it used to be 2 years, but now it's 4 years that we are required, and I'm looking at some of the teachers in the audience who I'm inundated with paperwork, to make sure, hey, are they, doing okay? In general, our reclassified students are some of the highest performing students in the district,
Right,
if not the.
That's great.
yes.
Mr. Ali, to get to your question, what kind of accountability are we held to? There is, or there will be, I should say, there will be some targets for growth established by the state. I don't think they have them yet in terms of how many students we should be reclassifying each year, how many students move from one level of the LPAC to the next. We don't have those yet. One thing the state has done, and Mr. Mosier has started to point out the last few presentations, has been the establishment of this EVER EL category. Previously, we only had EL, which are current English learners, and RFIP, which are the reclassified students. They've now created an EVER EL, which actually is a more stable subgroup in the sense that you're going to always have about the same amount of students. Because our English learner subgroup, anyone who performs at a level 4 and also does very well on the CASP gets taken out of that group. So next year, you start off with anyone who is level 3 or below in the LPAC. And so you have to move them into level 4. So that's why our EL alone CASP scores have always hovered between the 15 and 20% range, because that's about the number of students that get reclassified every year. Okay. So as soon as they hit that mark, they've also hit it on the LPAC, they get reclassified, they get moved out of that group. So the EVER EL group is one that students will always be in, because if they have ever been English learners, they will always stay in that group, and that gives you a bigger sense of how our English learner program, how that is operating, how are we serving our English learners. We still want to look at the EL students, especially if somebody's been with us for 5 or 6 years and they're still a level 2 on LPAC. That's something that we want to be able to look at. So
That actually is very helpful, because now we know that you're putting a name to that gray area, to the students in that gray area, but that when we're looking at your reports in the future, that we can highlight more the EVER EL portion, and that's, I guess, the built-in tracking right there of how they're doing and if they're progressing or not. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Cool. I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Next item is item 9B, acceptance of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation grant. The administration recommends acceptance of a grant from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation in the amount of $175,000 to be used for the Power Scholars Academy, specifically for 4th, 5th, and incoming 6th graders, which is our summer program for 3rd to 8th graders. This grant was written to fund summer 2020 experiences.
This is just an opportunity for the board to accept this grant. Silicon Valley Community Foundation has awarded us this grant to focus on our 4th and 5th grade students and their mastery of reading and mathematics, and we utilize that for our summer programming.
So they're going to be using this particular thing in summertime, right?
Yeah, we did receive the same grant the last cycle, and we implemented the program during the 2019 summer, and so this is funding for the 2020 summer.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the grant from Silicon Valley Community Foundation in the amount of $175,000 to be used for the Power Scholars Academy for 4th and 5th incoming 6th graders for the summer program.
Second.
This is a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
I just want to say too that since I've been on the board, Silicon Valley Community Foundation has given us immense support and I'm happy to see that it's still continuing.
I want to second that as well, too. Moving along, next item is item 10C, Board Resolution Number 19-09-11, Appropriations GAN Limit. The administration recommends approval of Resolution Number 19-09-11 for the annual appropriations GAN limit for fiscal year 2018-2019 actuals and fiscal year 2019-2020 estimate. Ms. Kessler.
Yes, this is a routine item that is automatically calculated for us when we close our financial records. And basically, when Prop 13 was passed to reduce, to keep property taxes from going up, Paul Gann also, shortly after that, passed another, or put together and helped pass another proposition to limit the amount states and local agencies can spend of tax dollars. And so each year, it's recalculated, and if we were to need more, if we were to spend more than we were allowed to according to our limit, then we would go to the state and ask for the increase. But it's always zero for us. Most districts, it is always zero. So there isn't an increase to ask the state for. And the state would be able to grant that because it's a statewide thing. It's a very complicated calculation. It's a very complicated calculation, but it's based on per capita increase in the state and also your ADA increase or decrease. So in essence, we have $0 to ask the state for any kind of increase. No increase is necessary, but we have to recognize that.
So
Hence the
we're
resolution.
voting on getting nothing.
I'm sorry?
We're voting on getting nothing.
No, we're just, what we're saying is that we have not exceeded the GAN limit, which means that we're spending within the range that the state has approved or has, according to the GAN limit that we've been appropriated.
You make it sound so much more, yes.
Yeah,
Now I
so it's
understand.
not like we're accepting what the state's, we are accepting it,
No.
but we don't like it. We wish that we would have more. We wish that we would have the funds to be able to exceed the GAN limit, but we don't.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 1909-11 for the annual appropriation GAN limit for fiscal year 2018-19 and for the fiscal year 2019-20 estimate.
First and a second, may I please get a roll call?
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Ms. Manio,
Aye.
Mr. Koo.
Aye. That was unanimous. Next item is item 10D, fiscal year 2018-2019 unaudited actuals. The administration recommends approval of the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Oh, no.
Colorful.
Oops.
Good evening. One of my favorites is actuals instead of always budget, because the rest of the year, this is the only time we have actuals, and the rest of the year, everything is about budgets. Prior year, current year, following years, but now we have actuals. So this is, the unaudited actuals are the financial records for the 18-19 school year, beginning July 1st, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2019. So this is everything that's happened for that year. Boards are required to approve the unaudited actuals by September 15th of each year. And then our external auditors come in and they audit our financial statements. And once they have done that, they submit it to the state, and the state has to receive it by December 15th, after which it comes to you for approval. And so then we'll have our partner from the audit firm come to you for approving the audited financial statements. So this right here is simply a summary of all of our different funds. In the green, that's our end fund balance for all the different funds. We have almost $73 million. Of course, in that is included the bond funds and such. So the first two items up top, that 8.8 million and the 4.8 million, those are the general fund. The unrestricted is the 8.8 million, and the restricted is 4.8 million. So I'll be starting high, and we're going to go down, 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 down to show you everything that's here in the general fund. And most of it is unrestricted that we'll be talking about. So this is a real great summary for the year. We had revenues of just over $51 million, but we had expenditures of $53.5 million. So in the end, we ended up with a $2 million deficit spending. So in the part below, it shows at the beginning of the year, we had a fund balance of nearly 11 million. We overspent by 2 million, which is 3.48% of our expenditures. And so we end up with $8.8 million of a fund balance in the unrestricted.
Stop you for a second.
I'm sorry?
When you say we overspent, was that
The 3.4.
was that planned overspending using our reserves?
That using reserves.
Okay, just clarifying.
So of that 8.8 million and that 4.8 million for the unrestricted and restricted, the end balance has to be broken up into, it's not like, okay, we got 8.8 million, we can spend it on anything. The first 3.8 million is our reserve for economic uncertainty, and we use 5%. And then there's a small cash amount and some prepaid expenditures, that's just under $8,000. The next significant one is the other designations of $1 million. There is a specific slide just for that, so I won't go into what it is right now, but you will see that later. And then the unappropriated amount, that's the amount that's like left over and available. Of course, the best thing it's available for is cash flow, because we don't get everything at exact time that expenditures come out. So that gives us that $8.8 million for the unrestricted, and then the restricted at the 4.8 million. Again, there'll be a separate slide that shows you the breakdown of that 4.8 million. Combined for the general fund, we have just under $14 million of end fund balance. This is the exact same information in a little pie chart, and I'm glad it came out like this, because earlier today when we were looking at it, it was not looking like this. So again, you can see that the orange over there is the restricted, the yellow at the bottom is our reserve for economic uncertainty, and the unappropriated amount is up there in the purple. Again, this is identical to the previous page, just visual. So I always let you know from when we adopt the budget to our first interim, what our changes are, from first interim to second interim, what they were, and from second interim to the unaudited actuals. Again, the second interim, we're comparing it to what was budgeted. It's always budget to budget to budget to budget. This is budget to actuals. So this is how it differs from the budget of the second interim. So revenues decrease. So this the savings here, if it's got brackets, it's a negative savings, right? So we had $52,000 less in revenues than we expected. We had nearly $2 million less in expenditures. And if you recall, at second interim, we had like $4.8 million of deficit spending, and I said it wouldn't be that. It would be closer to $2.5 million deficit spending. And as you saw in that previous slide, it's around 2 million, so it's a little bit better than the 2.5. I'll take that. Much better to be better than to be worse. Yes.
So is that based on like unfilled positions or?
Multiple things, and I'll show you those. So, and all of these will be shown in the following slides, in this order too. And then we have a decrease of contributions to restricted funds. So when we have a decrease of contributions, that means that restricted funds didn't spend as much as anticipated or as budgeted. And therefore, the general fund didn't have to contribute to that. The unrestricted didn't have to contribute to the restricted. So that's like a savings as well. So between the restricted and the unrestricted, the revenues, expenditures, and contributions, there's a $2.7 million savings. So again, where we had 4.8 million budgeted at second interim, and it's down to 2, this is the difference. I know it's rounded 4.8, okay, because otherwise it would be 2.8, right? So we'll first go to the revenues. How did that $52,000 decrease happen there? Okay, so it happened in great part from the revenue limit. Our unduplicated percentage ended up being a little bit less, and you can see how that affects us, just the smallest amount of unduplicated, and that really comes from mostly the free and reduced kids. And also, unfortunately, this is the bad part, is when Benjamin, who's not here anymore, does a great job and gets those kids out of being ELs, we lose money from that too. So that's unfortunate that we don't get to keep that. But and then also MAW, I don't know if you know, quite some years ago, the federal government, we get MAW funds all the time, and we get a few $100,000 a year for that. And some years ago, the federal government changed the rules on how to get it, and they made it retroactive. So everything that we did was right, and the government's the first to tell us that, yeah, we did it all right, but they changed the law and made it retro and said, now you got to pay us back this money. So they've been calculating this for I think maybe even a little bit more than 5 years, how much we got to pay them back. And we're really lucky because some districts have to pay a couple $1 million back. But ours is really it's correct. And yeah, it's unfortunate because if you're doing it right, you shouldn't be told later on that we're changing it. So now you have done it wrong. State revenues came in a little bit higher of mandated cost and lottery funds. And then local revenue. So local revenues, there's a lot of donations that come in to the schools, directly to the school sites. Those come in, we have interest income, and we always get this STRS and workers' comp refunds. It's calculated by the county at the STRS part, at the county at the end of the year. It's the way they automatically take the STRS from us. And then they do a year-end calculation and give us back what they took too much of. And then workers' comp, it's what we get back for employees that we have paid out for, and then workers' comp pays us back. And then CAVA, which is our charter school, our virtual charter, we get a certain percentage of their revenue, so as oversight fees, because we manage it for them. It's 2%. So that was included in there. And then transfers were decreased because we didn't need as much of the technology funds to cover teacher computers for the year. And so we only transferred in what we needed to transfer in. So all those combined make a total of a negative $52,000. It's a relatively small amount. This is the kind of thing that I like to see. It's tight. It's, revenues are usually quite closer than expenditures. Because expenditures, we budget what we allow to spend, which is, we hope, higher than people spend, especially when we are letting them know that, we want to kind of crunch down a little bit, reduce your expenditures. And so expenditures there's a much greater flexibility on that. And plus, there are other things that we just simply don't know about ahead of time. So the $2 million reduction in expenditures, that is coming from a reduction in per diem and stipends. A lot of that is at the school site level, so it's from the school site budgets. And then salaries also decreased and substitutes increased. So with all those combined, it's just under $600,000 savings. And looking through that, I did a real deep look through with my director, and it's in so many different places that it would be very difficult to explain to you just exactly where that is. it's a combination of many, many different ones, but a lot of it has to do with the site level, and those end up being carryovers. The classifieds, there was also, it's at the site level, much of it, so it's the school site budgets that they end up spending less in areas that they had budgeted for. And then also a custodial transfer, cost transfer. Our after-school program does, we're allowed to charge the after-school program for custodial costs. And so at the end of the year, we make a transfer. We don't know what that's going to be because we don't know what they're going to have left to pay. And so we kind of try to match it with what they've got available to the extent that we are allowed to charge it for. And so that went over as well. And then the benefits, well, for the most part, the benefits, that decrease in benefits is just simply a product of the decrease in the both certificated and classified salaries. Onto the supplies, actually the supplies and the services for the most part, but the supplies, the just under $500,000 of reduction there is, for the most part, school site carryovers, their discretionary funds, their S&C grant funds, their donations that they're getting. As you saw, the increase in donations, well, when they get an increase in donations, increased revenue, since it's for the school site, we increase that school site's expenditure budget so that they can spend those funds. And then if they choose not to, then it's, it stays with them. It carries over into the following year. Also, our textbooks were, the adoption ended up being a couple $100,000 less than necessary. I think we were thinking it was going to be 1.7 million. It ended up being 1.5. So it's a small amount of the big picture, but it makes up part of this. And then also classroom furnitures. The previous summer, we planned on classroom furnitures for Fernando Rivera and Thomas Edison, along with the painting job, and it was budgeted to happen in the 18-19 year because we normally put it in at the end of summer. But we actually received the product prior to June 30th in that previous summer. So the expenditure happened in the previous year, and we just didn't see it there and didn't relieve it earlier. And then for the services also, once again, school site carryovers, the discretionary, the S&C grant, and the donations, once again, as well as the district level support to school sites of S&C grant type expenditures. A lot of that has to do with staff development, where we plan a lot of different staff developments in the year, and maybe fewer teachers show up, maybe we have to cancel one, maybe we can't get the substitutes, and so there's leftover funds there too, as well as some tech department services that we didn't need to use. The only increase there is for transfers out to help support the food service program. As we said, the food service program is deficit spending, and so it needs the support of the general fund. And also, there's indirect costs that have changed. And indirect costs are directly related to the amount of expenditures from categorical programs. We are allowed to charge categorical programs for basically administrative oversight. And so, but that's based on our indirect cost rate as well as the expenditures they have. And then contributions. So at the end of every year, one of the things that holds us up in being able to close the financial records for the year is we have to wait for the County Office of Ed to let us know what we owe them or what they're going to give us for their special ed services that they provide us. So our students who are educated in county classes. And we don't get this information often until the very end of August, in which case which is what happened again this year, especially since they were down for a couple of weeks. And then we get this information and we've got to put it in there. Well, second interim, the county office told us what they believed we were going to have to pay them. So we increased the budget by $400,000 because they said the costs were going to be $400,000 more. And then, as it turns out, it ended up being $600,000 less. So we, instead, second interim, if they knew it right, if they had it right, we would have reduced our budget by $200,000 rather than increasing it by $400,000. So, but that's good, I'll take it. You know, I'd much rather have them have a lesser expense for us, but please, don't think that they're not charging us a lot, okay? This is a little bit in comparison to what they're charging us. They charge us a lot of money. And we still can't understand how they manage to justify that. But at least it's less than we thought it was going to be at second interim. Additionally, we had expected to overspend in Titles 1, 2, and 3, and reducing expenditures and such. We did not have to contribute as much as we expected to contribute to those programs. And then the Clean Energy Jobs Act. That is our Prop 39 program, our project that we've got there, and that's that one that we've got for all the boilers and the furnaces at the school sites, and we had to encumber those funds before the end of the 18-19 school year in order to get them, to be able to keep them from the state. The state gave us money. If we didn't encumber them, then we would have had to give them the money back. So we managed to get it through at the last meeting, which was great. But in that process, we had planned on spending it. It's happening this summer, so the expenditures will be this summer. And you'll see also later on that there are funds left there. All of those will be spent. It is coming up, I'll show you. But anyway, that $57,000 is the additional amount we figure we'll have to contribute. That'll just roll over into this year. So those are those three areas that were the increase and the increases and the decreases since the second interim. And by the way, that the brackets around there, that's a good thing, again, because that decreases the contribution to restricted programs. Okay, so earlier on, when we saw that big pie chart, the one before that, I said there were some slides some information I would show you specific slides on, and this is one of them. So this is a locally restricted part of the fund balance, and this is the carryovers, really. It's the donations, the 224,000 rounded donations, the discretionary funds, and the S&C grant funds that they have to carry over into the following year. So the school sites have approximately $1 million to carry over. Last year they had just $100,000 less to carry over. So they pretty much carry over the same amount each year, which means that they are actually spending it. It's just that they spend that, and then they have a little bit of carryover from the next one, and they spend that. So it's like a reserve. Once that's gone, it's gone. They don't have more. And then I also said the restricted, the $4.8 million that we saw earlier as part of the fund balance, these are the different areas that they're restricted in. You see the very first one, the $1.3 million, that's that Prop 39 funds. That's to pay for those boilers. And again, if we weren't able to encumber the funds prior to June, or by the end of June 30th of 2019, we would have had to pay those funds back. But we managed to get the project together and get the quotes and figure out what we needed. So those funds will be spent, are being worked on, being spent now. Lottery for instructional materials, that's a good thing. So we've got some funds there that we can spend. Another big one would be that the low-performing students, we have half of that amount budgeted for, that's new money from last year, and you approved how it was going to be spent. Half of it will be spent this year, and I suppose the second half will probably be spent the following year. I can't speak to that. We don't have that budget yet. And then the last big one would be the routine maintenance and repair. That is a required contribution that we make there, every year. It is required that we put 3% of whatever we spend, including this. So it's 3% of what we spend, including this part of what we spend, which is very interesting that the state did it like that. It's required because in the past we used state facilities program funds to supplement our bond monies. And the moment you accept those dollars, you are required to give 3%, put 3% a year for the next 20 years into this from the last amount that you accepted. And of course, that amount could be a very small amount that you accepted, but you'd have to put in 3% per year. And the good thing about this is this built a little bit this year, which is really good because if you recall, we are holding off on contributing. This year we had a $400,000 contribution to deferred maintenance. We've been doing that for many, many years. And this year we stopped it that was part of our temporary reductions. And so we are hoping that this will help with the deferred maintenance items that we really need to do. And of course, we will scale those back until we're in a better position, which has a lot to do with our enrollment. Right? So that's the 4.9 million actually in restricted fund balance. So here we have grants. Grants are not any kind of balance left in grants, which we've got there at Title III, 223,000, and then the TUP, a small amount. That doesn't show up in our fund balance because grants, you can only recognize revenues to the extent that you spend the money. So if you get $10,000 and you spend $9,000, you can only recognize the revenue of $9,000. The rest becomes like a payable until you spend it. So that's why I show it, because they are funds that are available for our use, but they are not included in that fund balance. It's just the way the law is written for both federal and state. So that's a good thing there. All right, so then that's the unaudited actuals. That's finishing the unaudited actuals. This slide and the next slide are just kind of giving you a little recap of where we are today and after the state budget was passed. Because the state budget is passed after our budget is developed and it comes to you. Then we find out what the state budget is, and then we make changes accordingly. And those changes will be included in the first interim report. But just to give you a little snapshot of what's important in the state budget, that's kind of maybe different than what we put in our budget. First off, there was no change in LCFF funding or COLA, which is, disappointment. I'd like to get more funding in LCFF particularly. But there's no changes there, and that's usually a big dollar amount. There's nothing there. If you recall, Governor Newsom, rather than giving one-time funds, he put money towards STRS. So what he did is he put for 2 years to reduce district contributions to STRS. And then also he put a lot of money to reducing that 30-year liability out there. And in the process of doing that, it reduces our future costs, right? And I really like that. I think that's a great way of giving money, one-time monies, because it reduces the liability. So he put it all there. Well, the legislature didn't like that. The legislature wanted to split it up, put some of it to the STRS liability and put some of it to the PERS liability. So that's what they did. They split it up and put it in the two different places. Our budget was built on the May revise, and in the May revise it had all gone to STRS. So because it doesn't all go to STRS now, our STRS liability, our STRS contribution it will be a little bit bigger next year, but first it went down and then it went up a little bit from where it was, kind of in the middle there. So our STRS liability will go up for next year a little bit, and our PERS will go down. And so with the combination of the two, as you see, it says effect on JESD budget, adopted budget. It ends up being more expensive. There's extra costs for us, $264,000 if you add up all 4 of those years. And that's because STRS affects school districts. PERS affects a lot more different agencies, not just school districts. right? So it gets diluted. We don't get all the benefit, quite as much benefit. But it is important for the state to support PERS as well. But the good news here is the very last thing. We did get some new special ed preschool funds. $1.1 million. Yes, that's what you see there. That's really good. Very excited about that. Not in the budget yet. It will be in the budget in the first interim. So, as you know, Governor Newsom wants to support preschool early childhood development. It's a really big thing for him. And we just happen to have a lot of students that are 2, 3, 4, and 5 years old that are that qualify for, that have IEPs that qualify us to receive these funds. It's almost $9,000 per student. And the good thing is, because the bad thing is that we don't get ADA for preschool. No. Unlike all the other grade levels, we get ADA, we get money, but the state hasn't, the only amount we ever got was a tiny bit of federal funds for preschool amounts. So this is really great because we're getting some money to support those programs, which we have just had to simply pay from the general fund. And so I'm very excited about that, although it's one time in nature. But with this governor, if it's a priority for him, then if it's priority from this year, it's probably going to be a priority for him next year. And hopefully we will continue to be, to benefit from that. So then I just want to give you a little history here of the last 4 years. And you see the bottom year is the year that we're in, where we have that $2 million deficit spending. And you see in 15-16, we had a $2 million surplus. And then we had a little bit of deficit spending and more deficit spending, and then we have this year. There is not, well, I can say there's kind of one major reason for it. But there's a lot of reasons for it. But the major reason is declining enrollment. If you look at the enrollment, we had 6,336 in 15-16. That was the last year of non-declining enrollment. Since then, we've declined. So the prior year, that number is actually higher than the prior year. And then we start going down. So from there down to the 6,096, that's a 240 student decline. And the 5,986 is where we were last year, and that's what will be funded on this year, even if we are still in declining enrollment, but we have a 1-year declining enrollment protection, and so we'll have that. But that's another 110. So those years combined, when you go from 2015-16 to 18-19, we have a 350 student decline. And so that has been our financial struggle, and we've been saying this over and over again, so hopefully that will eventually change and it will go back up, but apparently some years ago it was quite down like that. In the meantime, we make changes accordingly, and that's what we've been doing. So declining enrollment is the number one thing. We also have, the declining and duplicated percent that affects us. And then again, just the note, which I've already said, that this governor, instead of giving one-time discretionary funds, he has put it towards the STRS and the PERS liabilities, which I think is really good because that ends up being ongoing. That relieves district liability that would be year after year after year, which is like getting ongoing funds. So just imagine your mortgage payment goes from $2,000 a month down to $1,800 a month forever, that it's a savings. So that is it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from board members?
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Kessler. I had a question about the recovery of the MA. At what point are we going to say we repaid that all back?
Oh, we've paid it.
Oh, it's done. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, what they did is they took it out. Okay, so that repayment of MA, we recognized revenues that we were supposed to get, but they didn't give it to us. So they took it out and gave us the leftovers.
I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item is item 11A, certificate resignations, 2018-2019. The administration recommends the acceptance of the following certificate resignations and requests appropriate resolutions be prepared commending them. Those with 10 or more years service with the district. Sunita Gosala, Program Coordinator for Special Education, effective June 28th, 2019. Lana Pressler, 5th grade teacher at FDR, effective June 14th, 2019. And Crystal Serrano, 7th grade ELA and EOD teacher at TRP, effective August 16th, 2019.
Go ahead and approve this, and then we need to go back and approve the unaudited actuals.
Oh, okay.
Does this make sense? Are we,
Do you have a question?
well, let's see. Okay, I got it. Okay, I thought it was the other way around.
And if not, any comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion to approve the certificate resignations for 2018 to 2019 as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So I'll return back to item 10D for fiscal year 2018-2019 unaudited actuals. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the recommendation, excuse me, I recommend that we approve the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 2018 and 19.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
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 That was unanimous. Okay, so going back now to 12A, retirement for classified personnel. The administration recommends approval of the retirement requests from the following classified employee and requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending her for her years of service with the district. Carol Baga, office assistant, 1 at Woodrow Wilson, effective June 15th, 2019. She started on February 25th, 2002.
I move that we approve the resignation of Carol Baca, office assistant, effective 6/15/2019.
Second motion.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Next is 12B, resignations for classified personnel. The administration recommends approval of the resignations from the following classified personnel and requests appropriate resolutions be prepared, commending those with 10 or more years of service with the district. Hope Shao, food services assistant at Central Kitchen. Teresa Fields, instructional assistant for special ed at JFK. Serene Po Shanlung, office assistant 1 at JFK. And Janet Zapian Andrade, food services assistant at the Central Kitchen.
I move to make a motion to approve the resignations of Hope Shao, Teresa Fields, Serene Po Leung, and Janet Andrade as stated.
Second.
First, second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is item 13A, Board Governance Matters, consideration of form for use by board members requesting excusal from a missed board meeting. As specified in Board Bylaws 9250, board members must notify the superintendent of the reasons for their absence in order for a resolution to be prepared to excuse them for their absence. At the governance workshop of February 3rd, 2018, the board specified for inclusion in subsequent governance handbooks that such notification shall also be delivered in writing. The board will consider adoption of a form to facilitate the reporting and identify other avenues, if any, which may be utilized for this purpose.
Yes, so I received a request that the administration develop a form for board members to be able to record their request for a resolution to be prepared for their absence of a board meeting. And so this is a first draft of such a form. And so what I'm requesting is that the board approve this and also approve of you, whether you would like me to accept other forms of communication, written communication to excuse absences. In the past, board members have sent emails or written a note, but now we have a form that's been prepared.
Do we have a form here? Did you use a form?
Oh, Ms. Fidelis, Mr. Trill was wondering if you had a form.
I don't have the form, but I believe we have the form that you filled out.
Yeah.
We do have forms? Okay, good.
Is this something we can do online?
So this is for you to discuss. This is not my requirements. What I would be willing to accept would be if something like this gets emailed to you, you fill it out, you email it back.
I mean, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, just because if we're asking to be excused from an absence, it's probably harder for us to get to the district to turn this form in.
Yeah,
Is there
there's
something
we don't.
electronic?
Yeah, we can accept electronic. That's appropriate.
Okay.
It won't be
Like a
signed.
Google form or something.
It won't be signed.
Just edit it.
Well, I think we can embed this into an email,
Yeah.
and then you can fill it out when you reply. It's possible to do that.
Sounds good.
I think I'd prefer a Google Doc or a DocuSign. Just,
We don't have a DocuSign account, but we can investigate getting one.
Okay.
okay,
What does it
because
say it again? Do you know?
a DocuSign, it's
It's like an electronic signature.
it's,
Oh.
yeah, because if this is emailed to us, then we have to download it, print it, sign it with a wet signature, scan it, and then email it back.
Yeah.
That's not the only way you could do it.
Right,
You can
but-
do reply, and then you can just mark it in your reply
So,
with an X.
And say, take this as a electronic signature?
Well, an email is, for this purpose, is considered, because I don't know how many people have access to your email, so.
It was very easy to do it. Just brought it tonight.
Yeah.
Just bring it to the meeting.
So in the future, if
Very
what we have
simple.
is we will begin to attach these to your request, the resolution requesting the board, because it's the board who decides if the resolution is going to be approved or not. I'm just preparing the resolution. So you are requesting to be excused, then we can attach this form to that resolution so you can look at it and make your decision.
is it still, right now it's acceptable just to email you and request it, right?
That's the way that we've done it since 2018. We've taken written notes, we've taken printed out notes, we've taken emails.
So, I mean, I would like to be able to still do it the simplest way as possible for each board member, instead of all of us having to do this form. So that's the input that I have. Like, if someone just wants to type a quick email saying, please excuse me, and have a resolution made, that should be acceptable, right?
Yep,
Okay.
I feel the same way. I mean, this is pretty much saying that this is just another way to request a resolution. Is that correct? Okay.
So what I'm want the board to be clear is this the only way you want individuals to request an absence, or will you also accept other ways like an email or a handwritten note or a
Text
typed out
message.
memo? No text message, because we do need the paper trail.
Yeah.
A text message will work to let me know that you will not be able to make it, but I do need the request in writing.
Still the same. Whatever it is.
Well, if it's, I wouldn't mind it being all the same, but if we had if we could do it digitally or on paper, I think that would be fair.
I didn't have to mail mine in. I just brought it tonight. So, thought it was fine.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the form.
By the time we did something that was official instead of scraps of paper or a phone call.
So just to clarify, so the action taken is just to,
What is this?
yeah, it's an action item. So it's just to say that this form can be used. Is that what we're agreeing on?
Is the board saying anything else?
Okay, so let's see what, can I just see what this is?
That the form can be used, and also just a simple note,
Other forms of written or.
as long as there's a paper trail.
Yeah.
Or,
Why don't we just have one thing? What is it? So some of us are going to do sign language, and some of us are going to do email, and some of us are going to do all this stuff. I mean, if you've got the form, bring it the night that you come to the meeting when we vote on it. As long as they have a paper trail.
Yeah, I think we'll have to place them off consent if if you're going to bring them on the night, because if we don't have the written request, then we can't pass the resolution.
But you didn't have the written one, and we passed it tonight, and
I
we got it
trusted
tonight.
you promised that you would bring it tonight, and so
Yeah.
that's why it was like that. But
I think
in the
everybody
future,
else-
I think we just do it when we receive it. We put it on the agenda. There's
Right.
generally
We're making
2
a
weeks.
bigger
If there are
deal
2
out of
weeks in between meetings, 2 weeks should be sufficient to get some form of written communication.
Good grief.
Again, this is an item that the board brought, and the board has had questions about the absences of other board members, and this is how the board has decided that individuals request their absences so they can be considered for a resolution. Ms. Kovarai and I don't like to be in the middle of that questioning. That is why the board requested that board members request their absence be excused through a written form. And then that becomes part of the process. So
So I
before it was verbal, and the board moved that it become written so that there's a connection. And then Ms. Kovarai and I don't have to interpret requests.
So, Bernie, what you're saying is the written paper would be that we have a paper trail, and you guys don't have to make a decision or pass it on.
Correct, and that way neither Ms. Kovarai nor I need to interpret why somebody is out. Interpret the reason.
Okay, so,
so I move that we continue to allow written correspondence about our absence, and also allow this form that's been submitted tonight.
I'll second the motion.
First and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item is 14, governance team member comments, reports, and board meeting reflections. I'll start this way first.
Okay. As usual, I focused on keeping my interest in the best interest of the students. And that's it.
Mr. Swella,
I'll do the same one.
Ms. Manio.
Same, and I just want to reflect on us as a board, and I think that we are very respectful of each other and of each other's opinions, and even when things get a little heated, that we're still applying decorum,
Still like it.
and it is in the best interest of our kids.
Same for me as well. Keep our focus on the best interest of our students. Next item, button 15, persons wishing to address the board on any closed session items. Are there any speaker cards on this item? Seeing none, I will convene to closed session after a several-minute recess. Thank you so much.